welcome to my review of Scary Tales to Tell in the Dark movie. Fitting that I'm gonna tell my whole review in the dark. Honestly, no. This is gonna show a little bit of professionalism on this vlog. So, wait a minute. Okay. There we go. Lights on. Alright. Honestly, the darkness fits a little bit better for the for my thumbnail instead of the proper vlog. But yeah, Scary Tales to Tell in the Dark, the latest PG-13 horror movie based on a trilogy of anthology stories, a collection of horror stories written by Alvin Schwartz. And man, that let me be honest, that I was really anticipating this film for ever since they announced it. And why not? I like scary stories so much that before I just went to see the movie, I just went to YouTube and began to hear the audiobook of some of those stories. The audiobook read by, what was the name of that guy again? I have it here. George S. Irvin. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but I was anticipating this one. Again, here's some story in the audiobooks. I read some of those stories on the internet. And, well, I gotta admit that some of those stories some of them are creepy, some of them are funny, but they're kind of like in the tone of a campfire story. And, well, it is really well remembered. Not exactly by the stories. Actually, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is more memorable because of the illustrations created by Steve Gammel. How memorable, you might ask? Well, let's say that I saw a gentleman who gave out a certain reaction after watching something like this. Yeah. Imagine showing that to your children. Actually, I wouldn't mind. I'm kind of cynical / sadistic. But anyway, I just came back from watching the movie. This movie is produced by Guillermo del Toro, but the direction is taken by what was the name of this guy again? Andrew Overdahl. And I heard this guy who they say people that he made some good movies. One of them is Troll Hunter. I haven't seen that movie, but I think I should watch it. Okay, but I'm deviating myself when I'm supposed to be talking about the movie itself. Scary Tales to Tell in the Dark. Basically, they decided to take an approach to the Goosebumps movie territory, in which basically it's a group of kids on Halloween night. They go to a mansion to hide from bullies that they play a prank on Halloween. And one of them finds this book, which is kind of like a collection of scary stories from apparently this woman who lived in that house named Sarah Bellum. I gotta tell you about that in a minute. But basically, they find this book. The girl, her name, whose name is Stella. She's played by I got IMDb here. She's played by Zoe Margaret Coletti. She finds out that the book is technically written in blood. Too bad that it's not bound in flesh like the Necronomicon. But she finds out that she and the others then find out that the book technically writes itself some stories and integrates into the stories. Most of them are some of the most well-known stories from the book, Scary Tales to Tell in the Dark. And basically, once the books are written, one by one they become victims. And basically, for lack of better words, they get killed, and now the kid has to find a mystery on how to stop this curse or something like that. That's the basic gist of what this movie is. But the biggest question is, did I like the movie? Is it a good movie? Let me put it that way. There is some ambition in this movie. There is a lot of ambition. But unfortunately, it stands in the middle of the road just because this movie is technically a PG-13. In which, to its credit, it tries to push a little bit more than what a PG-13 horror movie do, which is something that I can applaud. But it's not enough. It's not enough. Because the movie suffers from lots of those traps that they go, like a lot of exposition talk, not a well character development storyline, kind of like a clunky script, a few chops on the editing and storytelling department, a little bit of corny acting, but especially for these kind of scares, a few of those fake scares, fake jump scares. Most of these traps that they mostly do in a PG-13 horror movie. Although I know that I'm sounding a little bit negative on a movie like that, but don't get me wrong, it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm just saying that this movie could have been a lot better, and I do applaud it. But I'll say this also. I'd rather watch this movie more than this piece of garbage named Goosebumps. I'm sorry. If some people know me, I absolutely hate the Goosebumps movie. I absolutely hated the Goosebumps movie. I still do, especially if I have to sit a long hour with this human garbage named Jack Black. But you know what? At least I got something that it kind of comes similar to the clunkiness of Goosebumps, but I'll take this more than this movie that has the stench of Jack Black. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop before I come out saying worse things about Jack Black, and I know that probably someone will praise him over there. Alright, so let's begin to, well, analyze where the movie fails and where the movie wins me. First off, the acting, I will say that is okay. Some of the actors, they were given material to personify a character, but most of them, they come off as either bland or they have kind of like a one-note personality here and there, and but at least out to its credit, I think for a PG-13 movie, that you can actually maybe you could tell the difference between a character and another. Let's start out with our main character. Again, the main character is Stella Nichols, who is the glasses girl who she feels lonely. She has kind of like a couple of friends, which I'll get to that. And she's an aspiring writer. She shows that she is a fan of horror. You can tell by the lot of nostalgia memorabilia of horror movies in her room. And well, she is the main character that she picks up the book in the mansion. Okay, I'll tell you that first, that they go to this mansion to hide from bullies, and that mansion will belong to this woman called, apparently Sarah Bellows. Oh, that name. Sorry, is that Sarah Bellows kind of like a different kind of John Doe, which, according to the exposition, yeah, they talk about it, but they don't show it. Sarah Bellows, it was a woman who they think that she poisoned some kids or something like that. I'm just telling you from what I remember. She's accused of poisoning kids. They accuse her of being a witch, and they lock her in the house where she began to tell scary stories to children through a wall and something like that. And well, basically that's the gist of that. And well, our main character, she finds the book, and she does find the book, and well, she first starts to read it, and I'll get to that after that. But but I'll say that one of the bad moments that this character has is that the movie tries to give us an exposition saying that she feels guilty that her mother left, and now she's just living in the house with, well, what was it, with Dean Norris. But and honestly, this arc doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't contribute anything to the movie. It doesn't. And if I fail to see what has to do with her arc of her feeling guilty about her mother abandoning her, and even thought it's not her fault. Nothing is kind of like her fault. I kind of fail. The only thing that she feels that it's not her fault is when crazy things happen. When she just took a book from an abandoned house, and she thinks that she's the one who feeling responsible for all this, and that's kind of feel a little bit weak. But let's move on a little bit with the other characters. The other character is this guy named Ramon Morales. He's played by Michael Garza, who is this Latin American who is a war draft. What was the term for someone who drafts out of the war? He got drafted, but he just runs away. You know what? I'll put it here. I don't remember what was the term. He's a Latin American who was drafted for the Vietnam War, and he has to go, but he doesn't want to go, and he just runs away. Oh, I forgot to mention that, yeah, this movie takes place in 1968, so you're gonna see a lot of 1968 stuff that kind of shows you in your face, like the Nixon presidential elections. They go to a drive-through where they're watching Night of the Living Dead, stuff like that. But anyway, this guy named Ramon, he kind of becomes the boyfriend of our main character, and well, I would say that he's kind of like the closest thing to be kind of like an interesting character. But again, we know a little about this guy until we reach almost during the climax where he just says that he just ran away and all this stuff. How does it? And people ban because he's feeling guilty that he's a coward, even though there was no signs that he was technically a little bit of a coward. There's other character, like for example, there is what was it? Gabriel, this guy named Augie, played by Gabriel Rush. He was kind of like I don't know, he basically had no discerning personality, even though he goes away a little bit early from the movie. Then we got this guy named Chuck Steinberg, played by Austin Sahur. Oh, this guy. You know that sometimes in these kind of Stranger Things like of character, you always have to come up with probably kind of like the closest thing to the comic relief. This guy who is technically, you're gonna get a little bit of a love-hate relationship to this guy, and basically this is the main cast. There's also the bully who he shows up that he's a jerk in one way or another, and there's also Chuck's sister, who Oh well, she's kinda there, of course. And that's pretty much what I could say about the main cast of this. But these guys, well, they sound like they're nothing. That is nothing compared to the biggest meat of this movie, which is none other than the scary tales elements. If there's one really big positive that I can give out to this movie, is that if you're feeling uncaring about the clunky character exposition and the clunky character development that we have, once the elements of the scary tales from to tell in the dark comes in almost every single set of the movie, these are pretty much the highlight of the movie. Why? Because first of all, the movie always tries to do that that the characters are given a setup. Remember that I told you about the book? Well, I actually like this thing about the book. Let's ignore that it is technically, historically, slash unfictional bullshit saying that all these stories are written by a character that never existed called Cerebellum, which technically erases the existence of Alvin Schwartz. Well, let's ignore that. But I'll say that I really like how this scare of this book works, because basically this book, when it finds a victim, it writes itself. It writes itself in blood. And I really like that there's even a kind of like a part that they can't stop it. They can't stop this book. They try to rip the pages. It doesn't work. They burn this book. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And they try to get rid of it by putting it back on the shelf. It doesn't work because it comes back to you. I will complain this because I think they should have done this part better with probably another scene. But anyway, I like that thing. I like the thing about this self-writing book because of the vengeful ghost. And yeah, the story that it begins to write is mostly some of the most memorable tales from Scary Tales to Tell in the Dark. And here is something very scary slash coincidental, because almost all the stories that they pick up to showcase in this movie are the tales that I actually read basically yesterday. Yesterday I began to hear some of the audiobook, and then I also began to read some of those stories for myself. And the ones that I pick up, man, they show it in the movie. Like they show. I know that I'm gonna be spoiling it because that's the point of a little bit of the review. But here's some of the rundown. For example, it shows Harold. Harold is basically the story of hunting how the scarecrow. They don't follow exactly what the story from the book. It kind of took that kind of liberty. I will say that probably the story in the book is way scarier than they show in the movie. But I'm not exactly gonna be that picky. They took also the story of the missing toe. What was the name of this? What was it? Oh, the big toe. It's called the big toe, which is this one kind of is followed a little bit exactly like the story. Even though I kind of wish that they ended just like in the audiobook, because let me tell you a little bit of a sidetrack that the audiobook of Scary Tales to Tell in the Dark, they add up some music, tension music. They add sometimes some special effects, and while what was the name again of the guy who reads George S. Irving kind of hands up a little bit of the reading of the stories. There are parts that he comes up a little really intensely scary. That honestly, I was hearing this on my iPhone, and I had my earphones, and I was like, "Oh my, please." yeah, I would suggest you to go to the audiobook if you want to kind of like a scare. But the point is that I really want expected to that the big toe thing ended up with the ghoul saying, "You have it." Oh man, what else they got? They got what was it? The red spot, which is basically about a pimple that burns into spiders. They got Mitai. What was it? Mitai Dowdy Walker. Who I think the one in the book is way scarier. They just only put it kind of like a something for the climax. The haunted house. They had a little bit of a reference to the Wendigo. Oh, do you think that I'm missing one? The elephant in the room? Oh, let me tell you one thing, that they did add that creepy moment from that is based on the story The Dream. And let me tell you this, guys, is that the part of the dream is probably the best part and the best scare of the movie. Because for one, I'll say that one of the biggest strengths that this movie has is that the monsters really look really good. I will say that they look better than the Goosebumps movie. Because, for one thing, they do capture the illustrations. They do capture the illustration of Steve Gammel. They look exactly like these, only that a little bit of a CGI. But they do exactly look the part. You know, the missing toe, the Harold, oh, I mean the big toe. But I know that many are scared by the illustration of the pale woman from the story The Dream. And in this movie, my God, I will say that it's creepy, and the way they handle it is really, really creepy, and it's technically the best part of the story. By the way, guys, somebody was sadistic enough to make an animated GIF of the pale woman. So you want to get scared? And while you're enjoying all these horror elements involving scarecrows, missed toes on stews, pale woman that looks like the grandmother of Jabba the Hutt. I'll say that while these elements are creepy, I'm gonna say that they didn't push it enough. That's a little bit of a nitpick that I could say, that even for a PG-13 movie, they say that they try to push it a little bit more than a PG-13 movie normally will do. They did a bit, but not enough, I'll say. So, in a way, don't expect this movie to be very gory, let's say. Because, well, honestly, I will say that a horror movie doesn't need to be gory in order to be scary. And honestly, I will say that some of those scares, at least at the beginning, they fail in a way, because they did rely a little bit on jump scares. Although the jump scare that they had happen on the big toe moment is that one I will accept that it came out kind of effective, and it is effective that you kind of feel like eerily scared about, oh my god, when the next jump scare is coming. But you're fooling yourself a little bit. I don't think that you're kind of scared for the monster to pop out. You're mostly scared that when the loud boom is in the soundtrack is gonna happen, which it's more startling than scary. And this movie kind of fell on that trap, at least on the first minutes of the movie. Because later Because you can't be scary if without the need of orchestral strings or jump scare. Take for example again when our well, I'll say a little bit for spoiler's sake, our comic relief. He gets scared. He becomes the victim of the dream with this pale looking woman, for lack of better names for that creepy thing. That was intense. That moment was actually really intense, and I just wish that the movie could done a little bit more scenes like that instead of relying on kind of jump scare. At least on the first ones. Although I'm not gonna be harsh on it because again some of the jump scares were really earned. The jump scare parts are mostly in the Harold and the big toe thing. That's a little bit of a nitpick that I have. So where this movie kind of began to lose me in some moments. Well, let's say that most of it is the mystery behind the book. Like I said, the book is our couple of stories that are written by this ghost of this woman named Sarah Bellows, who apparently she's been accused as a witch because apparently they say that she poisoned some kids and that she was being locked in that mansion's basement and she was telling scary stories to children in the other side of the wall. And yeah, they kind of go into this mystery that I kind of felt like a mixture of I don't understand why they're doing it or why I care, or sometimes they go to this woman who is kind of like the sole survivor and probably the nicest member of the family. She kind of didn't help much except leading them to the hospital, which there's one thing that I didn't like about the movie is that again it falls the trap of saying that, hey, you might be the next target, so you're afraid to come with us? Okay, wait here, or we will be back. Just don't get caught. Wouldn't it be better if this guy wouldn't be left alone? Leaving alone, leaving a next victim alone is the worst offense you do in a horror movie. And for a movie that wanted to push itself the limits of what PG-13 horror movie could do, you could have done better. You never leave the next victim alone. These guys probably get infected by whatever the cabin fever CEOs were doing. So yeah, anyway, and honestly, I'm not exactly very fond of the ending, I'll say so. I'll put it, spoiler alert right now, because it begs talking, because if there's one thing that this movie 100% disappointed me, it's the ending. I don't really not like the ending. Because, here's the thing, almost all the characters technically gets killed. The first bully, the leader of the group bullies, he gets killed, turned into a scarecrow. Then one of Stella's friends, he gets killed by being dragged into the dark by the ghoul who was looking for his missing toe. The sister of Chuck, she kind of survived, mostly because her injury was mostly a cyst that pops out and spiders crawl. Like the red spot story. But she gets hospitalized and then they deem her clinically insane. Chuck who probably has the best death, he gets sucked up into the body of the pale woman. That is creepy. And then of course, we got the climax in which it starts out imitating what was it? The story. What was the name of the story? The story of Meet Ty Dudley Walker, in which, to give you a little bit of a summary of the story, is basically the story of this kid who goes to a haunted mansion with a dog in order to win a bet. And then he hears a campfire story that apparently the dog begins to imitate. And well, since according to what people say, they find a bloody head floating, that it flows through the chimney. Which, after the head appears, the dog dies of being scared, and the child lets out a scream that they find him with his white hair white and really scared. In the movie, I like that they imitate that thing because the main characters are jailed because, well, Stella doesn't want her father to get involved, and well, the Ramon guy, well, he's kind of like the big subject, and well, since he escaped from being drafted, he's been locked up. And of course, he's been locked up by probably one of the most racist cops that you could ever find. Well, PG-13 racist cop, as you can see. And he had the dog, and the monster really comes down through a chimney, and then the dog imitates what the story is. And yeah, the head goes down, but it's not a bloody head like you see in the illustrations. I mean, in a way, I kind of wish that this head will pop out. But no, then body parts came out from came down the chimney. The monster reinstates itself, and he twists the head of the cop. Although, before the cop gets killed, I'm pretty surprised about his reaction. Instead of being scared, he was like, "Oh, really?" I mean, for a racist cop, that is pretty brave of him. Okay, I'll try to wrap this up. They escape. Stella goes to give the ghost back because, according to their investigations, apparently the ghost is the Sarah. What was it again? IMDb again. The Sarah Bellows character. She was basically innocent because her family they didn't like her. They tortured her. They sent him to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist just to torture her because the head doctor was her brother who didn't like her. They shocked her and all this stuff. So apparently her ghost is mostly has a big grudge against humanity, and well, she just killed everyone just by writing stories and killing everyone who gets involved. And of course, Stella gets sucked into the parallel world in which he is imitating Sarah Bellows. She gets into there, and she tries to appease the ghost, saying that it's not your fault. It's not your fault, but you're a monster when you're doing things like that. Something like that. And honestly, I was asking for a twist because it didn't construct very well how Sarah Bellows could be innocent, because we didn't see any scene, kind of like a believable scene to make us believe that this Sarah Bellows character is innocent. It just like he had a terrible family, and that kind of hated her, and she's kind of like a victim of that. And just because she said words and there was some kind of MacGuffin that could make the ghost be at peace. apparently the ghost could listen to Stella and say, okay, well, write my story. Tell everyone my story. Here's a pen. Write it in blood. She writes the story in blood, and she's like, ah! And then she disappears, and we got our only two survivors, of course. Honestly, I didn't like that because it felt like a weak. It felt like really rushed and really weak way to get rid of a ghost. Getting rid of a ghost is not easy, let's say, and it takes more than just pretty words and pretty determination to exercise it. And this part was like technically the weakest part of the movie, and it gets a little bit worse because everything is fine. Apparently she Stella decides to keep the book. She starts writing about the story of Sarah Bellows, and then the Ramon guy, he decides to get drafted to Vietnam. He gets the letter from Stella, saying that she'll be waiting, and then we get the final scene in which she's still with the book. She's on a car with none other than Dean Norris riding, and then the sister of Chuck is there, looking fine and dandy, except for with a scar on her cheek because of the red spot thing. And she somehow begins to say that, I know that my friends are alive, and we're gonna find the bullshit into the life of one. They got sucked up into the darkness with one by a ghoul, one by a pale lady, and let's not forget that the bully essentially got stabbed with a pitchfork and later turned into a scarecrow. No, movie, no. You'd say that you wanted to push the limits of PG-13. And if you want to push the limits of PG-13, not everything has to be a happy ending and with an easy solution. That's my thing about it. And now that I think about it, does that mean that this series is technically a pilot for a TV series? I don't know. And come to think of it, doesn't the quality of the cinematography also looks like a TV movie? This is a movie that really felt like it should belong to a Netflix film. But that's my only picky thing about this movie. But despite this, I did get a little bit of a kick out of this movie. There are some things that I liked, some things I didn't like. I'm glad that I saw it. Just saying. Do I recommend it? Well, yes. I think that this is a better alternative than Goosebumps. At least for me. And there is also a better alternative than the other movie that came out. But it does kind of like a middle of the road justice to the infamous book. Again, I do recommend you to read the books. Don't worry. I know that the illustration might be a little bit creepy, but we kind of need a little bit of creepiness in our lives to, move forward and find some excitement or adrenaline in our lives. Because who knows? Who knows how creepy those I don't know. These illustrations are so creepy that as long as I don't see this pale woman, maybe you're gonna have some good.